Welcome back to another episode of Discover Cars. We're here in sunny Canberra with the Cayenne e-hybrid. Now you may have seen a more popular review we've done, which is on the Cayenne S, which is a bit controversial to use some pretty floral shorts. But behind us is the e-hybrid, which is actually a quicker car and more efficient car than most diesels and the Cayenne S itself. So this actually warranted a new video, hence why we're going to go be talking about it. And this car has been kindly lent to us by Porsche Cayenne and it is for sale there. I cannot recommend how cool this car is. We're about to do a deep dive into why that is, but for now this is the Cayenne e-hybrid and let's go check it out. So the e-hybrid makes the most convincing case against the diesels because of the combination between a 3-litre petrol V6, which is turbocharged, and a battery pack and electric motor. Now, this electric motor allows for 44 kilometers of pure electric driving. Combine this with the petrol motor, you get 700 newton meters of torque and 340 kilowatts. The Cayenne can hustle to 100 kilometers an hour in 5 seconds, which is actually 0.2 of a second quicker than the S. And it also can tow up to 3.5 tons if you're concerned about that. Now in comparison to the previous diesel, the previous V6 diesel only put out 192 kilowatts and 540 newton meters. I think I know which one I'm choosing in terms of power and performance and also fuel economy. This will only sip fuel at 3.5 liters per 100 Ks. So this isn't the first e-hybrid produced by Porsche in the Cayenne range. This new type of e-hybrid was introduced in the Panamera, but also previously as an SE hybrid. Now that SE hybrid was pretty expensive. It was closing on $200,000 because if you think about it, it was priced above the S. This is replacing the diesel. It's still not cheap. It's $144,000 starting, but it is $30,000 less than the Cayenne S, which this can outperform in a 0 to 100 run. You join us inside the Cayenne e-hybrid, and what's most exciting about the mode we're in now is the fact you can't hear an engine at all. Any noise you hear is either road noise or just the electric motor, but this is a really weird experience because at the moment I'm accelerating, but there are no revs going on in front of me. And driving around, it's surreal and somewhat relaxing. So when you're going in traffic, it's just this serene quietness without that drone of a motor or even a droney gearbox going alongside of it. Now, if I go to hybrid, so this little dial here is telling me and gives me full control of what I can do with the engine and the battery. So E was just that mode. Then you have H, and so I've just switched it to H, and that just gives the best of both worlds. So it's for max fuel efficiency, and right now, the car is still deciding that it doesn't need the petrol motor. Now, when I start obviously picking up speed and want to accelerate a bit more, the 3-litre turbocharged V6 will kick in, and that's when you're going to get a bit more power to it. E-hold, so this e-hold function actually holds the amount of range that you have in your battery. So I'm driving along, I know I'm going to hit a city or traffic that I don't really want to be standing with, using all my battery power in it because it's only 44 kilometers of range. You press E-hold and the car will do its best job to keep it at whatever kilometer range you've got at the moment. Now, the thing that catches the people off guard with this as well is that when you're in hybrid auto or just this car in general, from 0 RPM, you have close to 400 newton meters of torque. And that means if you're used to, for the lag in a diesel car, for example, to get the turbo spooled, you're going to be off the line pretty quick because it's a bit of a shock and it will catch people off guard. I mean, you'll just get a bit of a jolt, and as you might have seen before, that's what happened to me, and it's really interesting sort of experience when you've got that much power early on. But now as I move on to sport, this will also firm up the chassis as well as improve throttle response and steering input. It sort of preps the car for a more sporty drive and sort of signifies to the motor that you're going to be wanting to use the best of both worlds to accelerate the quickest and get close to that 0 to 100 time in 5 seconds. Now there's one more mode, and this is turning all that sport does up to 11. So if I put it to Sport Plus, now the petrol V6 is really alive. You can hear it's holding revs, and if you really want to get moving, you'll put your foot down, and it's just like the 918 in terms of trying to use the electric motor to help push the car as fast as possible and get you the best performance in the car rather than focusing on fuel consumption. So This is the future. I'd hate to say it because I love the sound of a good petrol V6, V8, inline 4, etc. But this is the future. The way it drives, the dynamics of it, it's just really well integrated. And the fact that Porsche have announced that their first production electric car will be coming in 2020, which will come with the Cayenne, and the fact that the 992, the new 911, now has space for a hybrid motor, it's inevitable that every model in the Porsche range will become an e-hybrid at some point, eventually moving to an electric motor experience, because that is the future. Unfortunately, petrol is a finite resource, and it's just a fact that we all have to face at some point, as much as we don't want to. Now we're going to move on to the Discovercars score, and this is something I use to compare against other cars for myself and for other readers as well. This is going right up against the Cayenne S, obviously, which I've already reviewed, and some other Porsches, but this one's just a little bit different. You have around 400 Newton meters of torque straight from the get-go, and then the petrol engine kicks in after that. Onto the practicality score, it does score a really strong 9 out of 10, and that's because it has 1,600 liters of cargo space. I mean, that's enough to carry on the school orchestra when you're doing the private school run, instead of just a measly little violin that your friend's car can carry. And the daily score scores really strong as well for this car. It's a solid 9 out of 10 again, and that's really high scoring just because of that electric motor combined with the amount of space that an SUV brings. So this moves me on to the performance score. It scores a 7.5. That's 0.5 more than I score the Cayenne S, simply because it's 0.2 seconds faster to 100 than the Cayenne S, thanks to that instant torque from 0 RPM from the electric motor. And the cool factor is something that I think has a bit of zest to it, but this is an SUV and it's not an S variant e-hybrid, so it scores a 7 out of 10 simply because that SUV style, but it does stay a little bit higher than a normal SUV because, come on, acid green accents, and the fact that you have 700 Newton meters of torque and 0 to 105 seconds, that's plenty of bragging power. Now, this is a really cool thing that Porsche has done. They've really eased people into the electric car world rather than throwing them off a cliff and worrying about range anxiety. This has been Discovercars. You can check us out on Instagram. Please like and subscribe. I hate saying that because some people say that all the time, but it really does help out. It lets me know if you like this review, and obviously you'll leave your comments below because I read them all the time. And luckily shorts aren't out today because it's not nearly as hot, but don't worry, you'll see them soon. Thank you so much for joining. This has been Discovercars. I'm Cameron Sutherland. Thanks for watching.